Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Titans dodged a suspiciously Matt Nagy-shaped bullet by hiring 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh as their next head coach. Also, the LA Dodgers are killing baseball. And does Jimmy Butler's injury change how the Warriors approach the trade deadline?
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
Some of the big-name coaching candidates got the hopes up of Tennessee Titans fans. Meetings, scheduled second meetings, and in a couple cases, it felt like the Titans were being used as leverage to get a bigger, better deal. But in the end, the Titans get Robert Saleh, who was considered to be one of the top candidates on the market. And certainly, I think in the eyes of Tyler Rowland from Locked On Titans, better than some of the other names that were directly connected to the Titans job. Isn't that right, Tyler?
Yes, 100%. No Matt Nagy. We made it. I'm free of the curse of Matt Nagy. The Nagy nightmare is over.
Why was that the thing that everyone was saying? Why was that such an intuitive connection to make for people?
I think that coaching candidates, like when you look at the markets, FanDuel trying to handicap where people are going to go, that's like the least informative way to use betting odds. Like that's like, it's such a crapshoot. I think drafting and games and player props and all is way more, indicative or more information than what you could do with coaching search. So I feel like people are kind of throwing crap at a wall when they do stuff like that. And the Matt Nagy connection, I mean, when Mike Borgonzi, the Titans general manager, who was hired last all season, practiced for his interview with the Titans, his study buddy was Matt Nagy. So he's an offensive coach, previous head coaching experience, which is something the Titans really wanted, coming off the disaster of hiring a 39-year-old Brian Callahan with no play calling and no head coaching experience. Like the Titans were definitely, look at the candidates, the 19 that they looked at, 14 of them had previous head coaching experience in the NFL. So I think previous head coaching experience, offense, quarterback work with Mahomes, connection to Borgonzi, it did make a ton of sense. And the Titans were truly very interested in Nagy, so it wasn't totally off the wall. But I think all of those things made people kind of look at it as, oh, that's what the Titans are going to do. And I got to tell you, I'm so happy the Titans didn't go to the buddy hire well once again.
And that the buddy hire is kind of de rigueur in the NFL. Like that is often what we see. Okay, Robert Saleh, 20-36 as the Jets head coach, was fired in not even the middle, didn't even make it to the middle of his fourth season in New York. So why would it be different, Tyler, in Tennessee than it was in the big city?
Well, I think there are a couple of different things, but the number one biggest thing is ownership. Now, I am not going to get on here and be like, Amy Adams Strunk fired Mike Vrabel, fired Ray Carthon after a year, fired Brian Cal. I'm not going to be like, Amy Adams Strunk is some great owner, but I think there are levels to this, Pete. And Woody Johnson for the New York Jets, I think is one of the bottom two owners in the entire NFL, along with maybe a guy like Jim Haslam from the Browns. And there's a difference between, hey, an owner does dumb things and an owner inserts themselves on the football people. Amy Adams Strunk doesn't say, hey, you're hiring this guy, you're doing this. She just kind of like say, oh, AJ Brown just whooped us in primetime, I'm firing the GM. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Yeah. So I think that Woody Johnson, I think there's an argument to be made, and there's some reporting behind the scenes that Woody Johnson basically forced a guy like Nathaniel Hackett on Robert Saleh, and without being able to ever get the offense right, it doomed Saleh ultimately. And I want to say this, the New York Jets are 6-23 in their games since Robert Saleh was fired. And the New York Jets, for most of my life, have been a disaster other than a couple of years with Rex Ryan. So I think it's fair to say, hey, coaches with losing records often keep a losing record going forward. Historically, that is accurate, but it's hard to look at a guy who didn't win at I'm not saying he's Bill Belichick, but Bill Belichick had a losing record with the Browns. Even Bill Belichick couldn't save the frickin' Browns. So I think there is an argument to be made that without a valid quarterback during his time in New York, and with the ownership forcing him to take certain people on his staff, I think that Robert Saleh, in a way more relaxed environment than the New York City mediascape in Nashville, Tennessee, with a guy like Cam Ward, who, Cam Ward wasn't perfect, but I think Cam Ward is already better than anything we've ever seen from Zach Wilson. So I think a couple of those factors in there make me more optimistic that Saleh can have a better second stint than he did a first.
Quickly here, Ty, the offensive coordinator question is always going to be one. You mentioned it when you hire a defensive coach, especially with a young quarterback, you have to get that figured out. And the problem is, if you get it figured out, those offensive coaches are in such high demand that they often get opportunities to be head coaches. If you got to pick among reasonable candidates, like you can't bring, Bill Walsh, 1986 in, but if we can do reasonable candidates, what would be your like 1-2 wish list for Tennessee?
Well, I think I have a clear top 3 tier. Mike McDaniel has experience with Saleh. They're very good friends. He's clearly an offensive mastermind that may just not be a leader of men to be a head coach. I think Cliff Kingsbury. Why is no one talking about Cliff Kingsbury? Look what he did for Jaden Daniels, Kyler Murray early on. He ran the air raid system at Texas Tech with Patrick Mahomes. And I know it may sound blasphemous, but Cam Ward does have a similar skill set to Patrick Mahomes in the way that they play football. So I think Cliff Kingsbury would be my 2. And then Brian Dable is probably going to be a head coach again someday soon. I think he just has a really firm, stern attitude.
In Buffalo.
Yes, I mean, very, very much so. I think those 3 guys are my clear top 3. And I think Robert Saleh's connection to the Kyle Shanahan boys club, whether it be McVay, whether it be LaFleur, you know what I mean? I think that Saleh's connections to those type of guys give him a better opportunity to fix that problem than most defensive coaches.
By subscribing to Locked On Titans on your favorite podcast app. Your Locked On Sports today. Coming up, baseball as we know it may be dead. Before we get to that, Mike McDaniel is heading out to LA. The NFL playoffs are rolling along, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers every reason to get in on the action. Right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boost lets you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback, play, or coaching. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. Visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. The Chargers are hiring Mike McDaniel as their next offensive coordinator.
They did it. They landed their guy.
Yes, indeed. Mike McDaniel is going to be the new offensive coordinator for the Chargers. And finally, Justin Herbert has some real hope.
He really does. And for the Chargers, their offense has real hope, right? It was one thing to let go of Greg Roman. It's another thing to go and hire Mike McDaniel as someone who we just didn't know if Jim Harbaugh would hire. And those are kind of the levels to this, right? Jim Harbaugh doing whatever it takes to win. The Chargers obviously doing right by Justin Herbert and giving him an offensive coordinator that is worthy of his talents, right? And also you have the added parts of, does that mean Frank Smith is coming along for the offensive line, the guy who led the best offensive line in the Justin Herbert era? Does that mean, that obviously Mike McDaniel sees something in this young group of skill position players that the Chargers have?
Mike McDaniel, already extremely LA coded. Look at him, listen to him talk. He is made to be in LA. Over in the NBA, the Spurs beat up on the Rockets.
This is Andy Kamenetsky, co-host of the Locked On Lakers podcast. The Lakers get a 115-107 win over the Nuggets in Denver. One of the best wins of this season and perhaps the biggest comeback of the season for the Lakers. The game, frankly, began disastrously for LA. Denver shot roughly 1,000,000,000% from behind the arc in the first quarter. The Lakers gave up 9 points in the final minute of the first half, which included Luka Doncic somehow getting a technical after an and one basket. The Lakers gave up 71 points to Denver in the first half, but in the second half, they really cranked up their defensive intentionality, the intensity, the physicality. Luka Doncic finished the game with 38 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists, and 2 steals, just 3 turnovers. LeBron, a near triple-double himself with 19 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, some huge fourth quarter threes from Marcus Smart, an 8-game road trip off to a great start. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you're watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcasts.
The Lakers travel to face Jamal Murray and the G League Nuggets.
The Rockets, with their biggest comeback win of the season, beat the San Antonio Spurs 111-106. What's up? This is Jackson Gatlin, host of Locked On Rockets. And Rockets down 16 in this one, mounted a massive second half comeback, spearheaded by their defense finally waking up and playing up to its usual standard late in this game, as well as Reed Shepherd, who was a team high plus 15 in his 29 minutes off of the Rockets bench, had 21 points, 4 of 10 shooting from downtown, hit multiple big threes during a stretch in which the Rockets held the Spurs scoreless for a little bit over 6 minutes of game time there into the third quarter, into the fourth quarter. And then the Rockets went on a 13-0 run during that stretch that tied the game back up, got them back into this game. And then they had multiple clutch plays from kind of everybody late, some from Alperen Sengun, some buckets from Jabari Smith Jr., Kevin Durant being a decoy offensively, creating for his teammates. It was a team affair to close out the Spurs. And this one, San Antonio was playing on the second night of a back-to-back. You could tell they had some dead legs. The 3-ball kind of abandoned them as the game progressed. And Alperen Sengun did a lot of damage in the middle of this one, flirting with a triple-double, 20 points, 13 rebounds, 9 assists, completely outplayed Victor Wembanyama in this one.
After the Dodgers won the World Series, again, they seemed to embrace the idea that they were breaking baseball. And that was cute, I guess, for a little while. And then they signed Kyle Tucker, and the baseball world has lost their collective minds. Our pal Sully from Locked On MLB joins us now. And Sully, why? Like, this is who the Dodgers have been. Why is this suddenly such a big deal to everybody that has, according to reports, owners going, wait, we actually need to change the rules?
Because you have a situation where you have a system that works for 28 teams and not for 2. And that's one of the reasons why it blows my mind that people talk about a work stoppage. This has nothing to do with the players. This has nothing to do with the players. A system has been set up that has created a deterrent for teams like the Red Sox and the Yankees and the Cubs to go on wild spending sprees. And the only thing they didn't take into account were 2 teams to say, we don't care. We'll pay the tax. And that's what's happening. And everyone's saying, what do you mean you don't care? And that's what's happening. And like, I don't know how this is at all the players' fault. Why you would lock out the players. This would be like if I had an argument with my brother and I'm forcing my sons to solve it. No, you figure this out. Now, what I think is, my subtle solution is you make the luxury tax draconian that even the Dodgers and Mets would have to think about maybe not crossing it. But at the same time, and this is just as, people screaming about the Dodgers buying everything that isn't nailed down, you have to look at the other end of it. There is a salary floor that needs to be there. Yeah. And not only that, if the Mets and the Dodgers are throwing money into the luxury tax, which, by the way, is something that didn't exist about 10, 20 years ago. It's a relatively new thing in the collective bargaining agreement. It's something the players gave up. It's a victory for the owners. If you take money from that needs to be audited. You have to show how you're using that money to improve your 40-man roster. If you have the West Sacramento A's crashing on the Sacramento River Cats couch for 4, it will be 5, the next decade, and they take 1 dime of luxury tax money, you have to show how all of that's being spent on the team. Same thing with the Pirates, same thing with Cleveland, same thing with whomever takes it. And so, the sky is falling. I've been hearing this argument for my entire life. I've been watching baseball over 6 different decades, and every year it's, oh my God, the same teams are going to win every year, and they buy all the players. Meanwhile, we're saying, it's the first repeat champion we've had in a quarter of a century, and we've had 17 different pennant winners in the last 18 years. But it's the same teams winning every year. The fact of the matter is you have 2 teams who don't care if they pay all that money. And the other 28 owners are going, but we're playing by those rules. Well, the Dodgers and Mets are too. They're just throwing money into the coffers of the tax time, and those teams on the bottom, do you know what? Start spending. And do you know what? Someone else could have signed Kyle Tucker.
Also, Mets fans will be quick to point out it hasn't helped us. Like if you're a Mets fan, you're going, if the Dodgers are breaking baseball, we're trying and failing would be their rejoinder to this. Like, there's no guarantee of anything here. Sully, my question is, like, I think of the NFL where it's a hard cap. Like, you have to be cap compliant.
Yeah.
And there is no league that thrives better with parity than the NFL. If you're baseball,
bull. I mean, the NFL is making more money because they're a great television product. They're the most profitable, one out there. But you see, there are teams out there who have no chance year in and year out, and you have stretches where the Patriots win every year, stretches where the Rams, where the Chiefs are winning every year. And there are several teams out there going like, it would be nice to ever once see a Super Bowl before my great-grandchildren die. You don't have the number of teams making the Super Bowl or winning the Super Bowl that you have making the World Series or winning the World Series. Same thing with the NBA.
But there is no problem in the NFL of people saying, well, they're doing something unfair with the cap, because that's not happening. And
you don't have the parity that you have in baseball. I'm sorry, you may wince at that, but facts back that up. You don't have the parity in terms of the number of teams making the playoffs and making it to the championship and make it to the championship round, if you will, that you have in baseball. And so you have this hard cap, and you have these stretches where one team dominates for long periods of time, and you don't have that in terms of winning titles in baseball. And I can prove that in a court of law. So this is a situation where it's one of those things that people say that sounds right and yet doesn't survive scrutiny by going, you have a lot of teams winning the pennant, a lot of teams winning the world, different teams winning the World Series. You do have some teams that dominate for long periods of time. Sure, same thing with football. But in baseball, unless you're owned by Artie Moreno or you're the Pittsburgh Pirates, then you've been in the postseason in the last decade, and you've had a shot to make it to the World Series.
So is this just nothing to see here then? You're done? Like this fine?
No, I didn't say that. I say create a situation where if you're worried about how things are going, then you work. If you want to increase the luxury tax at the top, yes, but you also have to make sure the bottom dwellers get it too. If you want to have the teams at the bottom, like a team like the Cleveland Guardians, who should be a pennant contender, are in the bottom 5, and they're owned by the Dolans, who are sitting on a Scrooge McDuck pile of money, and they are in the bottom 5 of payroll. If you put them as a mediocre payroll, they're a World Series contender. And by the way, Cleveland fans are still waiting for a World Series. They couldn't even win the World Series in the Major League movies, and those were fiction. And so if you want to see some of those teams that everyone's worried about, some of the teams who have won a pennant in the last decade but are still near the bottom, then you make sure that they're not pocketing the money that the teams who, by the way, are helping make the ratings in baseball and the popularity of baseball skyrocket and go through the roof. If they're contributing money into the luxury tax system and you're collecting, then you better show how you're putting that money back in the product of the field. I'm more concerned about the Milwaukee Brewers having the best record in Major League Baseball and saying, well, time to rebuild, instead of the Dodgers saying, well, if no one else will sign them, we will.
Stay up to date all year on Major League Baseball by subscribing to Locked On MLB on your favorite podcast app. Coming up, the Warriors have a serious problem on their hands. If it wasn't already, the Warriors dynasty might be officially dead. Jimmy Butler has been lost for the season with a torn ACL, and the Warriors are panicking. Locked On NBA host Matt Moore and Hayes agree that Golden State is screwed, and there's not much they can do about it.
So I don't like doing these things in the moment, because so many times we're like, oh, they're screwed. And then later it's like, narrator, they were not screwed. Like, there's just, sports turn so quickly. Like, Jonathan Kuminga and Steve Kerr have a heart-to-heart. And then Kuminga comes in and plays at an all-star level and pushes that. Like, that can happen. Like, that stuff happens. That's just not narrative. That's not Hallmark narrative BS. Like, that stuff legitimately happens. If you want the rational case here, they're screwed. Every single metric they get worse at without Jimmy Butler. The numbers for Draymond without Jimmy and Steph are catastrophic. The numbers without Curry without Jimmy and Draymond. So anytime Draymond doesn't play and Curry plays, it's been a nightmare. They don't have anybody who can replicate his passing. They don't have anybody who can replicate his ability to operate as both a scoring threat and a passing threat. The IQ drop off. This was a team that didn't have enough offensive firepower in the first place. It says logically that they're screwed. The only thing I really kind of have here is like, well, maybe not. Maybe sports just works. That's all I got here. If we're looking at this rationally, the Warriors are well and truly screwed here.
Oh yeah, they're damned. I mean, unless something crazy, which I would love to see Quentin Post just have a crazy second half of the season, so I could just look at Matt and say another player you hated had a pretty good finish to the season. But outside of a trade, like they need to play Jonathan Kuminga now more than ever. Everybody knows they need to trade him. His trade value is taking a hit. You play him now, he looks good. Maybe it increases it a little bit over the next couple of weeks you have until the trade deadline to where you can get something that can help move the needle for you. But just realistically, per everything Matt just pointed out, they're screwed. They're done. I don't see any way that they come out of this unless some unexpected candidate gets bought out as well on top of a trade and they want to come play with Steph. Maybe that's something, but via what we know right now, the information that we have available, not the what ifs, they're screwed.
And like, I did the research this morning about like the long-term stuff. If we can go into that, Wes. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's say that's like, well, okay, not this year. I mean, clock's ticking, man. Like these guys are not getting younger. And the research basically says this, that over the last 30 years, there's been a progression of if you suffer an ACL tear over the age of 33, your ability to come back and play has been better. But the drop off remains significant. You can play, you just kind of suck. And it's just like, that's just a natural thing. And Jimmy's 37. He's going to be 38 when he comes back. I do not know what else there is for the Warriors. Like if Steph Curry wants to win another title, and I think he's fine. Like I think Steph is legitimately like, I won 4 titles. I'm the greatest shooter of all time. I'm good. But if Steph is like, I want to win another title, they got to start looking at every single option, even the most unpalatable ones.
And finally, Baker Mayfield lit the timeline on fire. The current Buccaneer and former Browns QB spent his Tuesday dunking on any revisionist history about his years with the Browns when a tweet surfaced from an Atlanta journalist claiming that Kevin Stefanski had a dumpster fire at quarterback in Cleveland, calling Baker a failure alongside Deshaun Watson. Mayfield clapped back, saying, "Failed is quite the reach. Still waiting on a text or call from him after I got shipped off like a piece of garbage," Mayfield responded on X. "Can't wait to see you twice a year, coach." Falcon Saints might get the most attention in the NFC South. But after this shot across the bow with Baker, Bucs Falcons might be just as fiery in 2026. Coming up, the Buffalo Bills are now on to a search for a new head man. Who's it going to be? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.